Hello, I'm Evan Funk. This is my final for USP 4. This final is about the potential for transit-oriented development in Escondido, California. The purpose of this project was, in essence, to assess which plots of land have the most potential to be developed near transit and other amenities and would offer the most benefit to the people living there. In an effort to curb continued suburban sprawl into the far reaches of cities, a lot of city governments are aiming to uh, do what's called infill development and develop lots that are kind of more towards the center of city and are currently underutilized. So here's a little bit about Escondido. Escondido is in the north of San Diego County, a little bit inland. Uh, it is a little more working class than some of the areas near the coast, and it's very suburban in character, as shown by this aerial photograph. A lot of the area is really underutilized. There's a lot of automobile oriented development, including parking lots, freeways, etc. The the land use is somewhat sprawling and low density, and there's a lot of potential for increasing density in order to provide more housing for the city, which desperately needs more housing. In the bottom left of this image is actually a train station. At the transit center for the city, there's actually a lot of radial bus lines as well as a train line that serves the city relatively well from the for public transit. There just needs to be more housing directly near the station so that people can utilize it. Um, these are all the vacant or underutilized lots in the city. So I didn't want to consider things like value to utilization ratios or anything like that. So I picked from the SAN GIS data warehouse lots that were vacant, uh, just currently dumps or junkyards, parking lots, etc. And this is what I called underutilized land or easily developable land, land that would not require bulldozing a building or something like that in order to be developed. That would have to probably be a separate analysis if you wanted to consider redevelopment of already existing houses or aging infrastructure, things like that. So that is what the scope of this project is. Um, as you can see, there's a lot of undeveloped land in the kind of far reaches of the city, but there actually is a lot of undeveloped land in the middle of the city as well. So these are the lots that I'll be analyzing using a buffer. Um, so from each of these lots, I will consider a half-mile buffer, and I will consider what amenities are within a half mile of each lot in order to assign a score to the lot based on how good or the potential for the lot for transit-oriented development. So this is each of those lots uh, uh, has a half-mile buffer put around the lot, and that is in this map, the lots are considered that are within a half mile of a transit stop. So if I go back, a lot of these lots in the excerpts are just not even within a half mile of a transit stop. So I did not consider these in the buffer. Before the lots that were within a half mile of a transit stop, provided that transit stop has service of 30-minute frequencies or better, it is included in this map and it was given a buffer. Within that buffer, I considered how many parks, schools, shopping centers, library, light industry, rail stops, and bike paths were within that half-mile buffer. So, for example, if a lot is more in the center of town, it's going to have much more jobs near it, much more schools, much more shopping, retail, and park amenities, etc. So that'll increase its viability for transit-oriented development because there's just a lot more to do, a lot more amenities. It's going to be a high quality and worth a lot more, in addition to being within a half mile of a high frequency transit stop. So at the end of this analysis, you get how many parks, how many schools, how many shopping centers, how many libraries, industry, and all the other criteria, including the bike route and the rail stops. Um, I assigned different scores to the different things. So I assigned, I believe, 10 points for each park, 5 points for each school, uh, points for each shopping center. I think the library was 3 points, et cetera, et cetera. Bikes were 10 points. Um, so this is kind of a subjective analysis. I assign points based on what I think is important in people's daily lives if they're going to be transit oriented. Um, so there's some room for debate here. I assigned points based on what I personally feel, but other people might emphasize different things in their daily life. Um, my dog is scratching herself. I apologize. Um, the score was eventually given, and this is what was the result. So in general, the city, a lot of the lots do have some potential, and as you can see, yellow is kind of less potential and red is more potential. Towards as you get towards the center of the city, there's a lot more potential for transit-oriented development because there's just a lot more amenities there. There's a lot more to do, and people can walk more places as well as having more access to public transit and the train station. So zooming in a little bit more, um, you can see that there were some pretty good lots in the north, and those were mostly bolstered by having a lot of schools nearby. That's typically where the schools are. But as you get towards the center, this is where the kind of the cute main street is, where a lot of the shops, restaurants, and the transit center are. So these got scored very high, and it makes sense. This is the most walkable part of the city. It has a connected street grid, and it's a little more historic. So the highest value lot was actually this red one right in the middle. Had a score of 134, and it was actually the parking lot of the movie theater in the center of town. This has a lot of potential because it's just less than a half mile from the transit center, and also it's a large lot. I think it had a lot more uh, shopping and other things near it as well. So, seeing as the direction that movie theaters are going, this has a lot of potential to be potentially redeveloped into something maybe mixed use or something like that. But anyways, this was a subjective study, but it also used a lot of data about what amenities are available. And I think it's useful for understanding that the center of our cities do have a lot of open vacant land in the form of parking lots or just open lots that have a lot of potential. People want to be able to walk to the store or walk to the nearest shop or walk to the train station, take the train to the beach or something like that. So um, uh, these are the lots that I would focus on if I were a city trying to redevelop and create more of a walkable urban fabric as well as providing more housing. Um, so thank you very much. That was my project.